Hello, and welcome to the Rodeo on Record. We'll jump into the good stuff in just a moment, but first, some context. The Rodeo is an independent music magazine showcasing the best in new music across genres of alternative, indie, and Americana. From interviews to featured articles, the mag encompasses everything we love about gig going, vinyl collecting, and playlist making. Now, off the back of the magazine comes our latest venture, the Rodeo on Record, offering a behind-the-scenes look at our content, bringing you snippets of our interviews in their most organic form. My name is Liv Cowell, I'm one of the editors and writers at the Rodeo, and I'm beyond excited to bring you this podcast. The Rodeo on Record is something we've wanted to do for a long time, seeing as there's so much material that we don't get to share with our readers each issue. From bonus questions to tangent chats, this is the place to be for exclusive insight into what makes our magazine so full-lip and fabulous. So giddy up, partner, let's get to it. This episode, we're taking a look at some of the artists appearing at Fair Play, a brand new festival taking place across Manchester's Northern Quarter on Saturday, 2nd of April. Each of these interviews is available in full on our website, therodeomag.com, so if what you hear piques your interest, head online to get the full scoop. Coming up, you'll hear from the Big Smoke rock duo Horsey.
I remember when we were starting out, we were getting booked to play in like Camden, and every band just sounded like the Kooks or something, like that tail end of that like indie, nothing landfill stuff.
Art rockers Blue Bendy.
It can be beautiful and it can be textural, and not only will it sound different, it will just elevate the whole thing.
Dream pop duo Robbie and Mona.
I feel like we could be a bit more expressive with Robbie and Mona in that sort of alter ego character narrative with the music.
And indie rock group Bull.
Any ways that venues can help people feel safe, or bands can help people feel safe, is good.
First up then, we've got rock duo Horsey. Their music is unpredictable, a mishmash of guitar twangs, vocal quips and piano sections, which our writer Lily beautifully describes as sporadic and inviting. That is, as it happens, the same approach I take to decorating a flat. Ahead of their performance at Fair Play, Theo and Jacob sat down with Lily to give us all the details on their upcoming show, as well as a reflection on creating their debut album Debonair 1 year on from its release. Although they're based in London, the pair didn't have much to shout about in favour of the music scene they started out in. Take a listen to their thoughts on how the subculture for post-punk has changed since they first formed.
Because, I was looking at, obviously, the London scene, and it is known for, these kind of new, like, slightly obscure, slightly experimental acts. Like, you've got Go Girl and stuff, and obviously Views and things. Do you think the London music scene, like, how do you think that influenced your sound? Obviously coming up and playing live.
Well, I think when we started, it was like a lot of indie music that I remember really disliking, and actually I think Theo kind of disliked it too. So we kind of went against it. And it's only really recently where stuff's actually been quite subversive and like good, in my opinion. So it's kind of, it feels like it's a lot less embarrassing to be part of like a London music scene. Whereas I remember when we were starting out, we were getting booked to play in like Camden, and every band just sounded like the Kooks or something. Like it just all was just that tail end of that like indie, nothing like landfill stuff, which I've heard is coming back, which is quite scary.
There was that was like popular, but I think there was like there was countercultures. That influenced us a lot. Like, I remember I listened to that so much. We both listened to that loads, and like Max loads, and to do Don't Look Smart, and there were these like really sick bands that weren't popular, but
were not popular at all.
And it's funny, when I used to play, I used to listen to that stuff all the time, and then my mum would pick up on it even as a teenager, like, oh, this sounds like kind of like your music, or sounds like music from London. So I think there is a continual line there of
absolutely
bands.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
I think it's the way it goes in it. Something that's a subculture that is probably, a bit more interesting than the current trends will always prevail to be a current trend. It's the same with the post-punk movement, especially in places like Birmingham. Started out as a little subculture, and then you've got tens of pop punk acts, or pop punk, post punk acts. God, pop punk would be a lovely little revival.
We love pop punk. I love that stuff. I still listen to Blink-182.
Oh, stop it! I want to go.
What I'm listening to now.
Hey. And I wanted to talk about your lyricism, because I think, obviously you've got this experimental sound you've been playing for ages, but I think when I listen to your lyrics, they're quite brooding, quite dark, and you've got this kind of sporadic sound, so it's a really interesting mix. Was that always intentional? Did you always start out writing quite dark lyrics, or?
Yeah, I mean, most of the lyrics are mine, and a lot of the darker ones were written when I was a bit younger. Probably, I don't know. But then, so it's just kind of, I guess, carrying on that theme. But I don't know, so it's really hard to tell. Sometimes you just write a song because you've got to do it the next day.
Yeah.
You've literally got a gig.
Yeah, for a gig, yeah.
Some of them are we're in the studio, we've got to do it. Other ones, they just come when you're writing the song. So I don't know, there's no real plan to it. It just comes out, and I think you kind of, your voice just comes out. But definitely, I think, I don't know, probably more gags as I've gotten older. And less I'm scared for this person.
Yeah.
I mean, they were always, younger. To me, they were always really funny.
Yeah.
To me, even the stuff that Theo will proclaim as serious, I would find it's almost macabre, and there's a humour to how serious it is or something. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of feels.
Just attracted to those kind of horror, I intense things to say and do, and I quite like the intensity. So I guess that's what I get excited by the lyrics. But nothing's really intentional. It just comes with lyrics, isn't it?
Yeah, that's understandable. I mean, I feel intensity is a good way to describe your sound in general, intense sonically, and then also you've got these kind of intense lyrics.
We'll stop there, but as the interview continues, the pair delve further into that debut album and the strong friendship which underlines the music they create together. You can read the rest of that Q&A online, totally free of charge. Thank you to Theo and Jacob for their time, and to Lily for conducting that interview. Horsey are playing Fairplay Fest in Manchester's Northern Quarter on Saturday, 2nd of April. Next up, we're going to hear from another band from the Big Smoke, this time an art rock group known as Bendy. With 6 bandmates in the regular lineup, guest musicians jumping in on their newer material, and a collaboration with producer Margot Broom, known for working alongside the likes of Goat Girl, Big Joanie and Fat White Family, the Bendy mantra certainly seems to align with the more the merrier. Having adjusted their sound somewhat since emerging from the pandemic, the band embraces creativity and inspiration both from each other and from other South London artists. In a great conversation with our writer Daisy, guitarist Joe talks us through their new sounds and how they each bring something quite different to the table.
And that process of writing as a 6-piece, is that something that kind of one of you naturally kind of takes the lead with, or do you all chip in ideas and it works in a more sort of organic, collaborative way? I can imagine, lots of ideas flying around.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a mix of both. For the most part, Arthur will come in, who's the sort of lyricist and the singer. He'll come in with the idea of a skeleton of a song. Sometimes he'll have it almost fully fleshed out in his head, and then he'll come in and show everybody the idea, and we can either learn it that way and work backwards and sort of decide what's working or what's not working. And then also occasionally we can just be in the studio when we're in there for a full day. It's very easy to get carried away and just start noodling around, and then I'll catch someone's ear, a guitar part or a synth part or a drum pattern or something, and be like, okay, that's interesting, and then literally build it up from scratch there. And then Arthur will go away and write some melody and some lyrics on top of that. So there's no defined way we do it. I think we've been playing for long enough now and practicing for long enough that everybody has an idea of the sort of sound that we're going for. And when something does naturally happen, it's quite nice. But certainly a big element of Arthur coming in with these ideas and then passing it to all of us and seeing what we want to do with some parts.
Would you say that you all have quite similar tastes in music outside of your own music, or do you have kind of different influences that you bring to the table?
So I think we're all probably, if what's the bigger circle, we all certainly have a crossover on the big Venn diagram of like alternative art rock and like alt pop and stuff like that. We like all between us love a lot of current bands like Black Country and Caroline and Black Midi and stuff like that. And then a lot of 90s stuff, Stereolab and Broadcast. We all cross over there, Pavement and Radiohead, big ones for us. But then I think individually we all do bring in these other elements where it wouldn't like Olivia might not listen to something that Harrison listens to, but between the two of them, they'll like gel this part together. Or Arthur will be listening to this band that I don't think are very good, but he'll like bring in an idea from them, and like in the context of things, it does work. So there's certainly that overlap. But yeah, with us all separately, we do all have our own individual tastes and disagreements with as well.
And listening to the EP as well, the influence kind of like you've got like strings on there and flute and kind of a bit more fleshed out, I suppose, than just your bassy drums, your guitar, the kind of meat and two veg of like bands.
Yeah.
Again, is that something that you kind of, I suppose, was a deliberate thing to say, not to set you apart from other bands, but you knew you wanted to have the different textures and different layers to it?
Yeah, for sure. I think that also follows on from the change I was saying, where things became a bit more fun and a bit looser and a bit more free. It was when we were first started, it certainly wouldn't have been the case that we'd have thought about putting strings and flutes on like a, post-punk song. Like did it just sort of going for it. But it's almost like a case of like, if something can be beautiful and you have the ability to do it and you can write the parts and you have the players and people are willing to put their time in and make something that, without it, you'd still be proud of, but it can be beautiful and it can be textural. And not only will it sound different, it will just elevate the whole thing. Arthur's girlfriend, Catherine, is the flute player. She plays on a few of our songs. So she'll come into the studio. She's just brilliant and can like just take this song. Like one of the EP songs, Spring 100, has a flute line that goes through both choruses, which, because we've known that song for ages now, that always used to be like a guitar line. And it sounded like this sort of picky sort of trebly, almost guitar solo-y line. And we're like, why don't we try that on the flute when we recorded it? And we're like, God, yeah, it just sounds miles better. It's just like kill it on the guitar. It's just not needed on the guitar. It's not working. Move it onto the flute.
Was that something that did the name Spring 100 come after that change to the flute line? Because listening to it, I think the flute adds that real sort of, spring-like feel to it, but kind of still quite brooding.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the lyrical content, unless you really lock Arthur in, he's a bit of a fickle lyricist, I think, just because he's always inventing and he's always writing in his head. So because we've been playing this song for so long, the lyrical content quite close to the change when we rewrote it for the last time and added the flute and stuff was a bit more maybe correct for the context of I don't know, spring. I don't know what you'd think about when you listen to it, but it's a lot more open lyric-wise, so it's a bit more flowery than what it was. It's a bit dark at one point, but still has that element, but it's a bit more easygoing now than what it was, yeah.
We'll leave that chat there for now, but the rest of the interview is available to read for free online, so head to our website for the full thing. Thank you to Joe for offering such great insight into the workings of Blue Bendy, and to Daisy for taking that Q&A. And of course, Blue Bendy will appear at Fair Play Festival in Manchester, so head down and support the band at what is bound to be a great performance. Now the next clip I've got for you today is from dream pop duo Robbie and Mona. In conversation with our writer Brady, the pair dubbed themselves as the Lady and the Tramp of the music scene, a self-summary which makes a lot more sense when you realise that not only are the pair together, but their monikers are actually inspired by real dogs. Ahead of their performance at Fair Play, Robbie and Mona, whose real names are Will and Ellie, candidly explain the influence their relationship has on the music, as well as the expressive personas they adopt on stage, something I've always been fascinated by.
Robbie and Mona, like you said, they were my dogs when I was growing up, which was quite a sort of spontaneous, aloof naming of us in the moment. Robbie, I think, is kind of like the slightly neurotic, high frequency alter ego, and I'm the sort of like docile,
expressive,
kind of that's an oxymoron, but yeah. So yeah, like it's kind of one of those things where it's not like a really conscious effort to be like, oh, these are our alter egos, but I think it's sort of like quite fits with the way that we aren't necessarily like that when we're just living our lives, but when we're kind of on stage and performing, that sort of aspect.
There was definitely characters we kind of slipped into, wasn't it? Without it having, it was convenient that it had relevance to the dogs as well, that they were also like that. It kind of was like a nice little bow to wrap around it, you know?
Say that it gives you an element of freedom, would you say, that kind of, if you, not alter egos, but personas that you can kind of channel to separate work and life?
I struggle to, on stage, to not have a persona. Every like project I've ever been in has always had an element of a persona going on stage, because I really struggle with the two kind of things of being on stage and being something that people are watching and experiencing, and then coming off stage and then having to revert back to something where you're just part of everyone doing, watching and seeing everything. So I've always had to have a persona to kind of take myself into, which also I kind of shoot myself in the foot with doing that, because when I come off stage, I struggle to slip back into what I actually am. Yeah,
because gigs are usually a social event, aren't they? So.
And I kind of have to, gradually decompress as the night goes on, really.
So you mentioned just then that you've had different personas in different projects, and so you both met as being part of Pet Shimmers. And I wondered, what is it that the Robbie and Mona project allows you to explore that you weren't able to, or maybe hadn't done with Pet Shimmers?
I guess it's a lot smaller, so I feel like we could be a bit more expressive with Robbie and Mona in that sort of alter ego character narrative with the music kind of way, because it's just kind of more like pointy, direct, there's two of us. And I think when you're working in a big group, there's a different quality to it.
Yeah. And you're a couple duo as well. So not just musically, but you are together. And how does that influence your work musically? How does that dynamic shape the work?
I think it's, in a really kind of shallow way, it's really convenient for us that we're together, not just creatively, but the way we live our lives is kind of just rolls into the same weird little world of like our relationship and Robbie and Mona. And then creatively, we're always reinforcing each other with how we have our outlooks on the world and the conversations we have, and that's always kind of being channeled into not only our relationship but our music at the same time. So,
I think, I don't know, it just makes a lot more sense for me, because it's not separate, it's not decompartmentalized, like, I go over there to do the band and then I come home to my relationship. It sort of feels more authentic, I think. I don't know, it all feels a bit more weaved together and authentic, because it's all real and it's happening real in real time kind of thing.
It's such a lovely dynamic those two have going there. And in the rest of that chat, they reveal to Brady more about the erotic elements which underpin their project. You can read the full Q&A online, of course. Just head to our website. Many thanks again to Ellie and Will for sitting down with us, and to Brady once more for leading that interview. Robbie and Mona will perform at Fair Play Fest on April 2nd. Our final interview today is with indie rock group Bull. This North Yorkshire quartet has been around for just over a decade now, and they show no signs of stopping anytime soon. In fact, the band was signed by EMI Records in 2020, making them the first York bands to sign to a major record label since Shed 7 landed a deal with the industry giants in 1993. You don't need me to tell you that's quite an achievement. Recording their chat on International Women's Day, it was the perfect occasion for our writer Hannah to sit down with guitarist and chief songwriter Tom to discuss the importance of safe spaces in music. Take a listen.
everyone deserves to be safe, you know, and to have a good time and to be able to, and especially music seems like a great place for people to, you don't have to be anything or do anything other than go, you know.
Yeah.
And so what a great place to feel safe, you know. Everyone can go. You know, you can drink if you want, you can not drink if you want, or you're just all there to do the same thing, which is to watch some music and hopefully have a good time.
Have a good time, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, any ways that venues can help people feel safe, or bands can help people feel safe, is good.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, it's International Women's Day today, and you know, like, there's still quite a lot of spaces at gigs, unfortunately, where as women we don't necessarily feel safe, but it's not just women as well, because unfortunately, you know, it can be like that sometimes. Creating these spaces and having festivals like Fair Play and having decent bands playing, decent bands speaking out about it, it's just going to change that narrative. So I'm excited. It's going to be a good festival.
Yeah, I think it'll be really good. The lineup we were really, really excited about the lineup.
Yeah, who else are you going to see then? Who else are you looking forward to watching?
Definitely want to see Blue Bendy.
Yeah.
They're friends of ours, and I saw them recently, and they were really, really good. They got a new song called A Celebration, which I think is a really, really good song. So I'd like to see them again. I'd like to see Big Joanie. Estella used to live in York, who plays bass in Big Joanie, and we would when Bull was starting, we played together with her band Junk twice a week. You know, we were like really tight with Estella, so it's always nice to see her. She moved to London quite a while ago now, but she's doing so well, so it's really good to see.
It's mad how paths cross again, you know. So
yeah, so I definitely want to see them. Is Global Charming playing? I think they are, and that's a Dutch band, a really good Dutch band.
Really?
From Amsterdam. So yeah, we're really excited about seeing them.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be in London that weekend, and I'm trying to move things around because I'm like, I need to be there, and also going back to the, you know, supporting smaller venues. All the venues on that are going to be at that festival. Sick, cool, venues as well. So
which venues is it?
So you've got Soup Kitchen.
Oh yeah, I like that place.
In the Northern Quarter, yeah, and then you've got the Pier Hat, which is like that hidden grind.
I love that place.
Yeah, me too. If those walls,
that is the best bar in Manchester, probably, right?
Yeah,
we've got a friend who's you probably met. She's always there. She pretty much lives there. In fact, I think she does live there. She's called Alana, but she plays music as Zup.
Oh right, yeah. She won't know me, I don't think. Or she does. She'll be like, "Oh, that drunk girl that was there." That's
yeah. But she's cool. She's called Lainey. That's what she's called.
Right. Yeah.
But she's really cool. We knew her in Manchester for a while, but we played a gig at the Beer Hat with her a long time ago.
That's a perfect example of why we wanted to bring you this podcast, is to show you those lovely little side chats, those tangents that we go off mid-interview that we don't get to include in the write-ups. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it's got you excited for Fair Play Fest, hearing Tom and Hannah get really excited about what's coming up. Be sure to read the full conversation with Tom on our website. He goes on to hint at what could be next for Bull, including a shift in sound and a very exciting music video prospect. Thank you to Tom for his time and insight there, and to Hannah for conducting the Q&A. If you haven't already cottoned on, you can catch Bull playing Fair Play Fest in Manchester's Northern Quarter on Saturday, 2nd of April. In fact, all of the artists we spoke with on this episode are playing Fair Play Fest, and the full interviews can be read in Q&A format for free online at therodeomag.com. Now, we're releasing 2 episodes for our coverage of Fair Play Fest 2022, so if you enjoyed this, then do go and check out the other episodes to hear our writers speak with London punkers Big Joanie.
For me, punk is about kind of having the ability to create and also to be rebellious and to kind of find your own way through life.
The genre-fluid northern lot YAANG.
If you just read the lyrics out of context, it just sounds like he's having the worst night ever, but it's sung as if he's having a great night.
And dance floor activists Regressive Left.
It would feel a bit out of touch with the time, I feel, to be writing just like happy-go-lucky.
Yeah.
Music.
Thank you so much for listening to the Rodeo on Record. If you enjoyed, and we hope you did, Make sure to tell a pal, a colleague, anyone who'll listen really, and give us a big fat 5-star rating wherever you're listening. This is the best way to support the podcast and help us reach new listeners. For more independent content, visit therodeomag.com, where you can find a shop to all our latest print magazines, as well as a great big load of online content to explore. Interviews, album reviews, strange feature pieces we can't totally explain. We like to think there's something there for everyone. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram to keep up to date with our latest work and future episodes. You'll find us at the Rodeo Mag on both. That's all for now, partner, but we hope to see you around these parts again. I've been your host, Liv Cowell, and on behalf of all the team at the Rodeo, thank you again for listening. Yeehaw!